Thank you, Professor Shaheen, for such insightful words. It was very crisp and informative, and a lot of new concepts were introduced. I would now request all the audience members here to start asking their questions.
I'm looking at Nidhi's question. What will be the role of media regulation in the communication trends in the digital age, especially since digital is meant to be free, open, accessible, and democratic? I mean, let me answer it first and then Dr. Shine can answer it. Media regulation doesn't mean that it's against freedom. And I'm giving you a quick response because if you'd ask me, media regulation is needed to ensure that plurality is there, ensure that freedom is maintained, ensure that it's open, accessible, and democratic. And to give you an example, if your internet service provider decides tomorrow that anyone who pays them, I mean, between Amazon and Netflix, if Amazon pays them a certain fee, they'll not throttle the internet speed for users of Amazon, but will throttle it for the competition, then you are at the mercy of your internet service provider, right? And that is why you need media regulation to ensure that media concentration or the few people that have the power to dictate certain things are not getting away with whatever benefits them at the expense of the others. Having said that, there are again all kinds of things that happen. There are lobbyists, there are policies, there are all kinds of governments that succumb to certain kinds of things. To give you the other example, like in the US, most towns have only one internet service provider. And the reason that happens is because each town gets a certain amount of funding that the internet service provider gives the town. So it's very difficult to have competition, at least in Connecticut. And that's changing now with the Elon Musk and Google and all of them trying to come in and provide alternatives. But that's a quick answer to your question that media regulation is not necessarily contradicting this notion that it's meant to be free, open, and accessible. I think it's actually ensuring that it's supposed to ensure that it happens.
First of all, let me extend my warm greetings and thanks to Dr. Sudeep and Dr. Saib Shaheen for a wonderful exposition, which probably our students will benefit from a great deal, particularly the data which Dr. Shaheen has given on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and explained. At least I'm very clear now on what machine learning is. Now, I just have to say this thing that media consumption across the globe is increasingly happening in digital formats today. Mobile devices are driving digital consumption. Now, first question that I want to ask is from Dr. Sudeep, that recently, it relates to education. Recently, in the massive thrust to online education and higher studies, where prior UGC approval is not needed, the government has passed some instruction to open digital university where 364 courses will be taught without approval online. And this also includes courses in media studies. Now, there is a debate going on whether online education is the new avatar of disaster capitalism, despite the devastating digital divide existing in India, ignoring that education is essentially a social process. And the 350 online courses allowed in various universities, they also allow the students to customize their courses. I don't know whether this potpourri pretends to be a travesty of quality. Whereas on the other hand, the other thought process is that the digital university will open the doors to a majority of students. Digital technology will close the gap in accessing higher quality education. This is one question which probably I am little confused as to how to handle this thing. The next question that I intend asking Dr. Saif is how artificial intelligence could address the challenges in Indian education system, particularly in the light of the new education policy. Because for the last couple of generations, we are so used to it. I am from an era of even that, not even a transistor before that. Indian education system has come under increased scrutiny and criticism for being archaic and unnecessarily rigorous. Though the new education policy speaks of certain reforms, as more and more students have moved to foreign countries to learn the latest forms of education, how do you think in the education systems when majority of the population is from the rural areas, despite our geographical, social and economic gaps, what will be the relevance of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and what are the challenges? Because today we are talking of challenges in the digital era in the Indian education system. I would request a certain kind of a debate on this thing and answers to these two questions. Thank you.
Sandeep, you want to go ahead first?
Sure. I mean, there's no simple answer to your question, to be honest, because it's not a yes or no kind of thing. One, if you look at how higher education is changing, even in the US, like Connecticut, where I am, the governor just signed an agreement recognizing certificate courses offered by corporations like Google and Amazon to be part of the coursework, right? So that takes away this whole notion of education in a university has to be in the classroom, taught by a professor standing up front. And then there are pros and cons of that, right? In terms of India, I think it's a good and a bad thing. The good thing is it opens up access. It's not limited to people coming into a higher education institution, whether they can afford it or not. The bad thing is, how do you ensure quality? Because anyone can offer anything. And even when I was the Secretary General of AMITY, one of the things I proposed was that we need a good accrediting body that ensures that certain standards are met, right? I think that UGC has been trying to do something, but this opening up the thing it'll be like the Wild West, where everyone will offer different things. It'll be buyer beware. It'll be about going in and trying to get a good quality kind of thing. But on the flip side, in a gig economy, you don't need to go to college for 3 years or 4 years and get a degree before you get a job. And you've seen that with the whole IT boom in India, and like how people get a certificate in Oracle or Java or Python or whatever and get a job here on a H1 that pays about $60,000, $70,000, $100,000. So they don't see the need for getting a broad-based education. My personal thing is, and this also relates to one of the questions that was asked, which is, how do we keep up with all these things that are changing, right? Which is, you need to pick up the core skills that are needed, which is why I stress that everyone needs to get a good liberal arts foundation. Because the average graduate now moves about 7 to 10 jobs before they settle in on a career. That's because the world is changing so fast, right? And so people need to develop those core skills that give them the flexibility and the adaptability to go with the changing world, but also in the kind of context you laid out. If there are 350 different companies offering 300, maybe 3,500 different courses, it'll come back to like ensuring that there's a certain benchmark that they're meeting, of benchmark of quality and relevance. And again, regulation is important, but it does open up. It has opened up a lot in India from the early 1990s to now. Education has opened up a lot.
Your personal frank opinion, do you think it's a good idea to recognize 350 courses where the students probably will customize these courses to their own needs. Your frank opinion.
If the standard is ensured, I'm for it. If there's a certain quality that is ensured, I'm for it because it opens up choice.
If I may interject in it, my personal opinion, purely my personal opinion, in the last 2 years when we went online during the pandemic, I found that other than the practical part of the education, there was, you see, in a practical sense, it's a social need to meet and learn. And just sitting at home, I have experienced that some of the students used to just, mark their presence and go away. I don't know how far recognition of the 350 courses by the UGC is going to.
No, I agree. Like you're talking about the way it's been delivered, and like people can get away without really meeting the standards that are set. My point is, if those can be ensured, that the learning experience is not getting affected, then yeah, I mean, like I can tell you any number of universities where people go to class and still don't get educated. They pay a lot of money in donations and still don't get the quality of education that they're supposed to be getting. So it's not whether it's in class or online, it's are they meeting the benchmarks of quality and what they're supposed to do. And I do take your point that definitely an in-class interaction is much better than an online interaction. I do take that point.
Indeed, yeah. Professor Saif, what are your points about?
I'll take up the second question because that was specifically addressed to me by Professor Dargan. And this is about what role can artificial intelligence play in improving the education system in India, broadly speaking. Am I right? Was that the question, Professor Dargan?
That exactly was.
I think it can play an important role, a very important role, but we have to be intelligent about how to use artificial intelligence. So like you said, there's a huge digital divide in India, and that we all recognize that. But having said that, a very large number of people do use mobile phones in India. Mobile phone penetration is very high, if not individually, then at least lots of families, even in many rural areas, they do have a mobile phone at home. If not every member, then at least the family does. So these can potentially be used as delivery platforms for education. So you can actually deliver education on these mobile phones. And I'm just giving one example that springs to my mind, a potential way of handling things. So which then obviates the need for building schools as like setups which are capital intensive, require money for hiring teachers, infrastructure, and they tend to be centralized. So people have to travel long distances and so forth. My father tells me that he used to go across 2 villages before he would reach the school that he used to go to as a kid. So that's a concern that people have all over India. So we can use digital devices such as mobile phones as delivery platforms for education. And you can use artificial systems to monitor, to figure out what are the different kinds of educational needs that are there in different parts of the country, within different households and so forth. You can really customize it in very specific ways, and then deliver education that can be really, really relevant for people who are actually using it. Now, again, there is always this question of quality control, which was being discussed with regard to the first question that you asked as well. How do we ensure quality? There isn't a straightforward answer to that. There would be some degree of institutionalization required, like maybe exams or whatever else it might be before you give out certificates and so forth. But still, I think the fact that there is a fairly high degree of penetration of mobile devices and things like that, they can already be used for delivering education in different parts of the country, especially in rural areas. And if we take this approach seriously, then the government can actually start working toward building infrastructure with this sort of policy in mind, where the idea is to not build centralized institutions where you expect people to come and study and get educated and so forth, but rather do it in a more decentralized, disaggregated manner, where you provide digital devices at homes across the country, and then also then build the infrastructure that enables these devices to remain connected to the internet. So the kinds of infrastructure that you need for internet connectivity to be there, moving toward 4G, toward 5G, and so forth, and then use those devices that are available at homes to deliver education. So that could potentially be one approach that artificial intelligence can be used for.
Right, Professor Shaheen. Thank you so much for these queries. We have some pending questions in the chat box. Deepika and Samiksha, they both are asking, with the evolution in media, emerging technologies taking over, is gaming and metaverse the only future, as a lot of experts point out, or will they create a hybrid or extended reality? And Samiksha is asking, since you have talked about loss of jobs, but what are your views on upgrading ourselves on an everyday basis, provided we are in media industry every day? Industry is evolving. Also, how can one upgrade themselves about AI, VR, and data science while being in the industry?
Sure. Just like I would say, with regard to the question about loss of jobs, just like we upgrade our laptops and computers and mobile phones and so forth, so we need to keep upgrading ourselves as we become more and more cyborgs in the digital society. Then we need to keep thinking about how to upgrade ourselves and come up with version 2.0, version 2.3.0 versions of our own selves, right? Which basically means keeping up with trends and so forth. And obviously, this is both a top-down and a bottom-up process, where we as individuals who are concerned about our lives and our careers and so forth, we need to keep making the effort to stay on top of new developments and so forth. At the same time, from a top-down perspective, governments and and educational institutions need to figure out ways in which they enable students, professionals, and so forth in the field to with the means to make those upgrades to their knowledge skills.
Right. And we have students here. Stella from Masters of Journalism and Mass Communication first year. She has a question.
Good morning, sir. I wanted to ask, what skills exactly do you need to succeed in AI marketing?
I don't know. Sandeep, do you?
See, there are a set of core skills and there are a set of adaptable skills, right? I mean, like the set of core skills are, it doesn't matter whether you're in AI or not, the kind of disciplinary knowledge that you need in terms of the kind of marketing techniques and marketing theories and marketing kind of stuff, that it doesn't matter what kind of, whether you're in an analog world or a digital world, the kind of understanding, the persuasion kinds of stuff, the kind of consumer psychology, the marketing behaviors kinds of things, right? The research kinds of skills. That's one set of skills. Those are the core skills that are transferable. But AI related wise, obviously how AI works, the kind of machine interaction, the kind of how the human computer interaction that happens, the kind of skills that are required. Are you getting into the kind of applied kind of AI, or are you kind of getting into the back end of AI? The back end requires a lot of coding. The front end requires a lot of application. So it depends again, like there's no like list of 10 things that you get and you learn this and you're set forever. As I've said, like you need to, learning is a continuous process, right? But those marketing theories will hold well till the day that something comes along and you need to upgrade it. But the technical skills, you need to keep upgrading as you get new software. But to also go back to Deepika's question, gaming and metaverse are not the only future. But having said that, if you really look at how the human, the role of the human being has changed, like from an agrarian society to an industrial society to an information society to the future, the human being as a physical entity is increasingly becoming irrelevant. So in the future, I wouldn't be surprised, like Saif talked about cyborgs and cybernetics and all that kind of thing. With the kind of human spare parts that are being replaced now, I mean, all of you are familiar, you might already have a family member who's had a hip replacement or a knee replacement or a shoulder replacement. They're already talking about implanting pig hearts and all that kind of thing. It's only a matter of time before the human body becomes irrelevant. You just need to figure out a way to hook to your brain, and you can keep the human body alive for a long time. So in that sense, yeah, we are getting into a very science fiction kind of world. So gaming and metaverse is not going to be the only future. There are going to be a lot more kind of you already work with avatars and all that kind of thing online. It's going to be a very simulated kind of environment in the future.
Thank you, sir, for answering that. Yes, Dr. Shaheen would like to say something.
Yeah, and I was just going to second Sandeep's point that with regard to AI in marketing, I used to teach digital journalism when I was at Bowling Green and so forth, and it's important to remember that journalism ultimately is journalism. So your understanding of journalism, theories of journalism, news values, and things like that, they remain the same. So that is something that I'm sure would apply in marketing as well. Just as Sandeep said, that the basic ideas, the basic concepts, they are fundamental and they remain true no matter how the technology evolves, how the technology changes. But then, having said that, you do need to be aware of how the technology is evolving and what kinds of ways it is changing the field itself, and work with that. So that goes back to, again, upgrading your skills and so forth. Also, I think what is happening in a lot of fields, certainly in journalism, which is a field I'm more familiar with than marketing, is that there is more of a trend toward sort of working in teams. So a lot of news organizations are actually hiring artificial intelligence experts, technology people in very, very large numbers, who enable a lot of the things that I was talking about as well. So journalists
and that
themselves
is taking us to the next question also.
All right.
Rashmi is asking, is artificial intelligence affecting journalism negatively? So I think you were already answering that. So I tried.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. So what is happening in journalism is that companies are hiring a lot of IT professionals, AI professionals who do a lot of the automation and so forth that I was talking about. It is both good and bad for journalism. Like with all technology, there are good sides to it, there are bad sides to it. So that there are many ways in which it is automating a lot of things that, I mean, I worked as a journalist for a long time, and a lot of the tasks that you do as a journalist or in any profession, they tend to be a little bit tedious, which are actually being taken over by AIs, like writing those quarterly reports of businesses and so forth. That's a really, really tedious task, which robotic reporting can now perform. So that makes things easier. Also from the delivery side, recommendation systems and so forth, they work pretty well in terms of customizing and so on. But they are then also raising a lot of concerns about journalism related to jobs and things like that, but also in terms of the larger value that journalism provides in society. One of the sort of functions of journalism is to inform a society in a way that societies are integrated, right? People promote better understanding of our world around us, right? But the same recommendation systems, because they customize news to such an extent that we only get to see and read and watch news and content that sort of the AI system thinks we would is in line with our political beliefs or cultural values and so forth. They start inhibiting the understandings that we can develop of our culture and societies as a whole. They start creating divides within societies. This is a very well recognized and understood problem. So they in some ways undermine the one of the most important functions of journalism, which is to promote understanding of societies within societies, across societies, and so forth. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, of course, sir, it does. We will now move on to the next question that is from the audience members here.
Hello, sir. I'm Anukriti. So, sir, I just wanted to ask that, this is something I feel that pandemic has also served in this boom of everything moving online, from transactions to job opportunities and all of that. So I just wanted to know that this change was inevitable, or it is because of the pandemic that we are here at this point of time. Like, the digitalization of everything is the next step of human evolution. Like, was it supposed to happen, or the pandemic has served as a catalyst of a sort?
Yeah, I think we were already very much moving in that direction, but you used the right word. Pandemic has catalyzed a lot of those changes as well, and pushed them in certain specific directions too. I would add that we might not have moved in specifically those directions, but the pandemic has kind of so for instance, the digitalization of health services that has expanded significantly, the use of artificial intelligence in medication and things like that. So that's an area in which there has been a lot of development in the last couple of years, and that I think is because of the pandemic. So we were moving in that direction, but the pandemic has served to catalyze it as well. And has also shaped the direction in which we are moving in some ways. And I think Sandeep might have more insight on this as well.
See, I think you're right in the sense that the pandemic basically showed us how to move online, and people like here, we basically got our faculty to pivot online within a week. We gave the students an extended spring break and said, by the time you come back, all classes will be online. So yes, that possibility is there, but we live in a global world where everything is so interconnected, right? And it's not like we are going to stay digital. Everyone's like already looking forward to meeting in person and interacting. And there's a lot more socializing that needs to happen, because research shows that just because of these 2 years of pandemic, school kids have mentally lost about 4 years of development, right? And that's not something that we can continue and let it happen, at least in the way that we are doing digital learning. Kids and adults also, but kids especially need that interaction, because that's what develops that resilience in students. That's what gets them to develop mentally and physically, and the social interaction is important. In my university, the university I'm at for this year, the counseling and psychological services has moved from 1 counselor to about 5 counselors. And for the first time in their history, they have a waiting list. And we are talking about college-going kids that need that counseling, because not everyone can cope with being alone through a screen. A lot of people are ending up with a lot of mental issues and mental problems and all kinds of issues. So that's not something that can be sustained. It's not going to be healthy to sustain it. And like as of April, the first week of April, we are even doing away with masks because people just want to interact. It's by force that we are there, but I don't think that's going to be for a long time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Indeed, amazingly informative and an interactive session today, and a great start to the conference. We are happy to share that the conference has got tremendous response across the globe. And in the next 2 days, there will be more than 100 papers that will be presented. I now, on behalf of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ma'am, Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla, we would like to present you a Tulsi sapling. I request the IT to present the Tulsi sapling for Professor Mupidi.
Thank you very much.
I request the IT department to present the Tulsi sapling for Professor Saif. Thank you so much. I request Sonam to join me.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now request Dr. Rubaid Ashfaq to unveil the booklet. Thank you, Dr. Rubaid. It's a great pleasure for me that all the papers that have abstracts that have been received by the conference are now going to be published here. So the virtual booklet will be available soon to the participants. Thank you, Dr. Rubaid.
Due to a lot of commitments, prior commitments, our Honorable Founder President Sir Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, he could not join us online, but we are indeed honored to receive his blessings in the form of a message. I shall read the message as it is. It is a matter of great pride that AMITY School of Communication, AMITY University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida, and Lucknow campus are jointly organizing International Conference on Communication Trends and Practices in Digital Era COMTREP 2022 from Tuesday 29 March to Wednesday 30th March 2022 in virtual mode. ASCO is endowed with a unique set of infrastructure, world-class state-of-the-art facilities and talent, and is recognized as a premier institution globally. It is an institution that lays special emphasis on a vibrant environment which encourages faculty members, research scholars, and students to undertake activities focusing on areas catering to the present and future challenges of the world. It is heartening to see that 2 days conference will provide an ideal platform to all stakeholders from varied backgrounds to have intensive and rigorous brainstorming covering the various topics of the conference. I extend my hearty welcome to all eminent speakers, distinguished subject experts, and worthy participants from various national and international universities and institutions. I am confident that the conference will greatly contribute to enhancing more understanding of state of the global media and communication in this digital era. It will be enriching experience for brilliant faculty members, research scholars, and students and other worthy participants. I extend my sincere appreciation to all the distinguished members of International Advisory Committee for their support for this conference. I congratulate Dr. Jolly Joes, Conference Chair and Assistant Director Research, ASCO Noida Campus, and Conference Co-Chairs, Dr. Mehak Jonjua, Assistant Director Academics, ASCO Noida Campus, Professor Sanjay Mohan Johari, Director ASCO Lucknow Campus, and Professor Dharmendra Kumar, Professor ASCO Lucknow Campus, as well as all the members of Organizing Committee, dedicated faculty, brilliant students, research scholars, and staff who, under the most able guidance of Dr. Balvinder Shukla, Vice Chancellor, AUUP, Dr. Sunil Dhaneshwar, PVC, Lucknow Campus, and Professor Colonel R.K. Dagan, Advisor ASCO, have made all praiseworthy efforts in ensuring the success of this event. The most strategic and visionary leadership of Dr. Atul Chauhan, Chancellor AUUP, and President Ritnan Balved Education Foundation RBEF, and Dr. Asim Chauhan, Chancellor AUH, and Additional President Ritnan Balved Education Foundation, would lead to outcome-based and result-oriented success of this competition. I extend a warm welcome to all the participants of COMTREP 2022 and convey my best wishes for the success of the event. We are grateful to have your blessings and will take forward your vision, sir.
Thank you for your blessings, sir. I would now like to invite Professor Dr. Mehak Jonjua, Assistant Director Academics, ASCO Noida, to give a vote of thanks.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to all in one present here. I would like to extend special thanks to our founder president, Ashok Chauhan sir, Chancellor Atul Chauhan sir, Honorable VC, Dr. Balwinder Shukla ma'am, for giving us an opportunity to host the conference. Our honored guests, Professor Sundeep Mupedi and Dr. Saif Shaheen, for taking out time from the busy schedule. The conference has been envisaged with the intent to create discussions on the changing role of media in the society, especially in this digital age. The conference offers participants an inspiring opportunity to expand knowledge of media and the latest trends in the market, along with the theoretical, policy, and personal dimensions worldwide, enduring with wide fields and the many disciplines, all towards building cooperative partnerships, offering publishing opportunities, and enacting visions of a more equitable world. I extend my appreciation to all the paper presenters for their sincere efforts and dedication. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to advisory board members and reviewers for their support, guidance, and timely reviews. I also thank the editorial team for their sincere contribution. I hope COMTREP 2022 will unite distinct research and case studies from all over the world in parallel sessions while offering many networking opportunities. Thank you.
With this, we close the session. We'll head on for a short break, and then the various tracks, the technical sessions of the conference will begin.
There are 5 tracks which will be going on simultaneously from 12:15. So all the participants and paper presenters are supposed to join those links, individual links for the tracks.
Thank you, Dr. Sandeep and Dr. Saif.